Most of us are taught a very specific version of success. You work hard, you climb the ladder, and eventually you reach a position of authority where the people below you execute your vision. You get the title, the corner office, and the power. But the biblical model presents a different reality. 2,000 years ago, the standard for authority was set by the ruling class of the Roman Empire, rulers who used their positions specifically to lord it over their subjects, extracting labor and resources to serve themselves. Jesus presented an alternative. Looking at this breakdown of Matthew chapter 20, the text explicitly states that whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. This creates a practical tension. In a modern professional environment, climbing the corporate ladder often puts a leader's interests at odds with the people they manage. It forces a choice. As this image directly asks, can we actually lead and serve at the exact same time? Navigating that tension means realizing that genuine leadership has very little to do with the perks of authority. It requires forcing yourself to look in the mirror and answer whether your primary motivation is to serve others or to be served. Adopting this posture requires a grueling, active discipline, demanding a specific mindset that goes against almost every natural instinct we have. That mindset can be broken down into 4 specific principles: sacrifice, suffering, surrender, and stamina. The first pillar is sacrifice. As defined here in the top left, this involves giving up something valued for the sake of something else regarded as more important. You are actively choosing to forfeit a personal benefit for a higher organizational or spiritual purpose. In a biblical context, 1 John chapter 2 frames this as a rejection of worldly pride and the lust of the flesh. You have to lay down your own ego. It is the model of the Good Shepherd found in John chapter 10. A true leader doesn't stand behind the flock to push them forward. They physically place themselves between their people and whatever threat is approaching, preemptively laying down their own safety and agenda to protect the group. That level of sacrifice is an ongoing entry fee required to earn the right to influence anyone else. And that constant sacrifice leads directly to the second pillar, suffering. You have to be willing to undergo pain, distress, and hardship, absorbing the organizational and emotional blows so your team doesn't have to. We often talk about the status of a high-level position, but the reality of taking responsibility for other people is heavy. It means carrying the stress of the mission when things go wrong. To survive that without abandoning your post, you need the third trait, stamina. For an extreme example of this endurance, we can look at the historical records of the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. Paul details a relentless list of hardships he endured to spread his message. He writes about being flogged severely, beaten with rods, pelted with stones, shipwrecked 3 times, and constantly exposed to death. This shows that stamina functions as a psychological act of persevering. It is the active refusal to give up hope, even when the burden you are carrying feels completely impossible. Without that deep-seated stamina, suffering simply leads to burnout. But when you endure hardship without breaking, it creates an unshakable, battle-tested foundation of influence among your peers. Which brings us to the final and perhaps the most difficult pillar of the entire framework: surrender. To truly gain influence as a servant leader, you must first willingly yield it. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, defines the daily practice of surrender as actively choosing to ignore the impulse to lean on one's own understanding. That requires letting go of your need for absolute control. You have to take your personal pride and your desire to always be right and submit them to a higher authority and a broader purpose. When a leader fully surrenders their need for personal glory, they effectively remove the single greatest obstacle to their team's success: themselves. When you master these 4 grueling traits, sacrifice, suffering, stamina, and surrender, the traditional model of top-down authority falls apart. A person who embodies this framework never actually has to demand respect from their team. They earn it through their relentless service to the people around them. Power is no longer visualized as a single person standing high above the rest, looking down. It shifts to a leader standing embedded within the team, supporting the entire structure from the inside out. This reinforces the instruction in Matthew 20. To be first, you must willingly become a slave to all. True greatness is a measure of sacrifice, calculated by how much of one's life is given away for the benefit of the many. The ultimate goal of a servant leader is not to extract value from their people. The goal is to relentlessly encourage and inspire them to reach their own greatness.